South Korean President Moon Jae-in said President Donald Trump deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to end the standoff with North Korea over its nuclear weapons program. President Moon and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Friday pledged at a summit to end hostilities between their countries and work toward the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And comedian Michelle Wolf's routine at the annual dinner of the White House Correspondents Association is sparking controversy. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders and Senior Counselor Kellyanne Conway were the main subjects of some of the most insensitive jokes. Who's to blame here? We'll analyze it. Hi, I'm Michael Won, your host for Michael Won's Op-Ed Live, and this is Korean American Democratic Committee's President John Yi. Our show Op-Ed Live is not about left or right, it's about what's right or wrong. So John, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello everyone, my name is John. I'm the president of the Korean American Democratic Committee, also a resident of Los Angeles. And yeah, proud to be on the show today. Thank you for having me.
All right, okay, that's great. KADC has been busy endorsing a lot of candidates for the upcoming primary election,
yes.
right? Can you name some of the big names out
Sure.
there?
I think the big name right now a lot of people are hearing about is John Chung, who's running for the governor of California. Mm-hmm. If he won, he would be the first Asian American governor for California. Another race that we're interested in is Dave Min, who's running down in Orange County against Mimi Walters. So that's one of the seats that we're trying to turn Republican to Democrat. Mm-hmm. Another exciting race is Ben Pak. He's actually on our board as well, but he's running for Board of Equalization in California. Again, another a high-level position that we're hoping that he gets. So those are a few of the candidates that we've endorsed.
And can you also explain what KADC does to
Sure.
our audience?
The Korean American Democratic Committee is a political action committee, and the primary purpose of the organization is to fundraise money and to support candidates that support the Korean American community and our issues.
Okay, let's dive into our first topic. So it seems that North Korea only understands strength, and President Trump showed that strength not only with words, but with heavy sanctions. And Kim Jong-un blinked. In short, it seems that Kim is scared of Donald Trump because he thinks Trump is a leader that can possibly even attack North Korea. The fact is, North Korea has never seen a leader like Trump. Trump kept hammering North Korea with words and backed it up with actions, something that previous administrations did not do. The result could be a monumental foreign policy success for Trump. People are already talking about the Nobel Peace Prize for Trump this year. So far, surprisingly, everything seems to work fine. Kim Jong-un had a summit with South Korea's President Moon Jae-in, and he declared no nuclear in the Korean Peninsula. Even the liberal mainstream media is giving Trump some credit. Is this really happening? This is what the Chicago Tribune wrote in its editorial. Trump faced up to the threat in a way his predecessors in office did not. He made it clear to Kim that there is a genuine red line that cannot be crossed. Wherever this proceeds, give Trump credit for his role in making Friday possible. Friday meaning last Friday when South Korea's president met with Kim. What is your take on this, John?
Sure. I mean, the pressure that North Korea received from President Trump, from the United States, from the sanctions, definitely, I believe it did contribute to Kim Jong-un maybe approaching this with South Korea in more friendly terms. But I would slightly disagree with the premise that you come with that somehow Trump was the first president to enact pressure on North Korea. I mean, I think under Obama, we saw China move more towards pressuring North Korea, especially limiting its limiting its support. So I wouldn't necessarily say that this was all due to them. I think some credit also goes to South Korean president and the rapprochement that they've been pursuing with North Korea, from the Olympics to the invitation of, when North Korean President, Kim Jong-un's sister went to South Korea. So I think there's definitely a lot that factored into where we are today. But I would though give President Trump the credit that his strong words definitely does resonate with someone like Kim Jong-un.
When I see it, I don't think President Obama helped at all.
Sure.
His administration, I think the Obama administration, all they did was appeasement. And appeasement never worked with North Korea. I think they saw weakness from Obama. You know, this coming from an Obama supporter. I backed him 2008 and 2012. His rhetoric didn't work at all. So North Korea pretty much they just tested nukes whenever they wanted to, and also ICBMs. It never stopped, and it even continued towards the Trump administration. Probably Kim thinking that Trump would probably be the same as Obama. You know, just words without any actions. And I think that's what happened. I mean, politicians, they were just all talk and they didn't, and no actions. And that's what happened. And Trump clearly walked a different path from previous administrations. He put so much sanctions. I don't think under the Obama administration they pressured China to put sanctions on North Korea. But Trump did Trump pressured China to put sanctions on North Korea, not to the degree of what he wanted, but they still did. I don't think I've ever seen China put this much sanction towards North Korea. And that hit them economically because most of their exports, I believe 82% of their exports goes to China. So if you get that cut off, it pretty much squeezes you to the degree that Kim Jong-un, there was some reports that Kim Jong-un might not even have enough money or food to even help out his generals. So that put him on the defense, and that's what pulled him out during the Winter Olympics back in February. That's when Kim Jong-un told his diplomats, hey, go to South Korea, tell them we want to have a summit. And then that's what they did in North Korea, if you remember correctly. And then Kim Jong-un told the South Korean diplomats, hey, go to the White House and tell Trump, hey, we're going to back off with the nuclear stuff. Let's have a summit. And that's why this whole thing happened. So I give 100% credit to Donald Trump. I'm a supporter of Moon Jae-in, but I don't think he really played that much of a big role. I think he probably didn't disrupt this movement. I don't think he disrupted it, but I think Moon Jae-in, he's doing also a great job. I mean, making this summit, and he did this, gigantic summit last Friday, but nothing specific came out of it. So,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I argue that Trump deserves some credit here.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like the current place that we're in with North Korea, South Korea right now is a good place. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. But I believe if you look at the current status of for the Panmunjom negotiations to what's actually put into paper, there is nothing concrete.
So far. I agree with you.
I definitely agree that where we are is a great place. President Trump and his sort of bellicose nature with North Korea and sort of being strong against North Korea definitely moved the needle. But I think, as you were saying before, you had a good point about in the past efforts, it was appeasement.
Just kicking the can down the road.
And until we see true agreement where we have verification in North Korea, can check on their seals, have UN UN forces there to verify that it is denuclearizing, I think at this point it is sort of status quo still.
I agree with you.
So until we have that final point, then I'm more comfortable seeing that this is sort of something that Trump might have contributed.
That's why I have to give Trump some credit here because it was more of a symbolic summit for me last Friday. Of course, they said we're going to end the war and probably there's going to be a peace treaty out of this, but the final resolution regarding this whole issue, North Korea issue, will be resolved probably end of May or early June. We don't know when exactly Trump is going to meet with Kim Jong-un. Probably they say early May. Late May. That would be probably the final agreement. What's going to happen, and I believe that Kim Jong-un will probably agree. I would say probably close to 100% of what Trump did.
I mean, that's a huge speculation.
That is a huge spot. But I would say this because then I would say why he even asked. Then he's going to that means if he doesn't agree to Trump's terms, in my opinion, then that means that Kim Jong-un is content with all the sanctions that is going on, and it's going to continue. That's what Trump promised already.
But I think it's also worth remembering who is Kim Jong-un's constituency. It is not the public. It is not the U.S. It is not the world court. If the constituent of Kim Jong-un is his power base in North Korea. And so for him to go around looking statesman like this, it's a win for him. And again,
so you're saying that meeting him gives him, some people are saying
there is credit to that, definitely. So again, I'm not saying that to discredit the meeting. It's still an important meeting. I'm glad that it happened. But we are conceding things to North Korea that we normally did not. And if you want to approach this with a hard glove against North Korea, we're already conceding, first of all, face-to-face meeting with no pre-negotiations. Granted that the Trump administration has walked it back slightly. We're giving them sort of agreements to denuclearize and putting conditions on the table that normally would not have we not gotten commitments from them.
I disagree with you on that. I think there were a lot of pre-negotiations. I think Kim Jong-un already, he declared that there will be no nuclear tests and no ICBM testing. I think that in itself was a huge thing. I don't think he ever did that to Obama. So those were the pre-negotiation. And Mike Pompeo, now he's a Secretary of State, but when he was a CIA director, he went to Pyongyang. And I believe that there has been some talks. And What I think is Pompeo said, hey, you got to get rid of all the nukes or else, this sanction is going to continue. And I think that's what happened. And John Bolton, the new national security advisor, he is hawkish as you can get.
Sure.
And there's a reason for Trump to hire both Mike Pompeo and John Bolton. They are pretty much the leaders of this whole thing. I don't think anybody else would.
But what are they offering them in return? That's the question.
That is the issue. You are exactly right about that.
Yeah.
I mean, people are worried after they give up all the nuclear weapons and they decide not to do any more testing. Then even if I think of Kim Jong-un, he would definitely want something in return. And some people are saying they want America's companies to invest there, help them economically, and that would become an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, but what do you think about that? What do you think America should give in return? That is becoming an issue, I think.
I mean, I think I don't agree with that question to begin with, because I feel like
you think we shouldn't give anything.
I mean, there's definitely give and take in this. There has to be a diplomatic solution. If we don't give something, I mean, the only solution is military, which is unthinkable for that situation. And so we have to figure something out to give to them. But at this point, we've already given them things, and so this notion that somehow we're.
But when you say we gave them things, what are you talking about?
Oh, like I said, we've given.
Summit,
we've agreed to meet with them without any preconditions.
So that is already giving.
That's conceding something. I mean, in South Korea, if you just look at the optics of two presidents coming together, shaking hands. I mean, again, I think these are good things, but that serves an internal political purpose in North Korea to strengthen the regime, to reaffirm the regime. So again, these are things that we were conceding.
So what you're saying is, in optics,
sure,
North Korea has a win
has
here.
benefited. Exactly.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
That's the reason why many presidents didn't want to do this kind of one-on-one meeting. They wanted a six-party agreement. They didn't want this one-on-one. But I think you have to deal this kind of rogue regime with head-on. One-on-one is better because I think the previous administration, they didn't want to take all the responsibility to themselves. They wanted to spread it out to China, Japan, Russia. They did not want to get all the blame, I would say, if something goes wrong. So I give Trump credit because if something goes wrong, Trump is going to definitely take probably all the blame. But
he's not one to really take blame well, but
he does. Yeah, he wouldn't. but regardless, I would blame him if something goes wrong. But I think he's on the right track. Because with North Korea, a brutal regime and a crazy regime like that, they only understand strength. That's what I believe. I don't think appeasement never works with this kind of country. It was with South Korea. I don't think it even works with Iran. That's why I think the Iran deal was such a horrible deal, which today came out, which came out with Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister. He said that it was a lie, and he said his intelligence proved that Iran was not honest with this whole Iran deal thing. But
he's also running for re-election.
Yeah. But
he's
anyway,
also quagmire.
But anyway, regardless of that, I think so. North Korea understood strength. I think Kim Jong-un believed that Trump would definitely attack. There has been some reports that there might be a nosebleed attack, surgical attack on North Korea, and I think Trump really definitely thought about it.
So in my opinion, North Korea, for them, they do not respond to strength. Here's my opinion. North Korea responds to regime survival. So whatever they can exit, so if they can, for example, if they can have a peace treaty or some kind of agreement with South Korea where there's an investment in North Korea, as long as the regime can survive in that new setting and there's no pursuit of them against human rights charges, they don't end up in criminal court, that is, I think, their priority. And I mean, they need to feed their own families and their own sort of regime, the power base. So I think that is the base. And so for me, any kind of negotiation that goes further has to secure or has to feed into their security. And so that's what worries me is what are we going to do to make sure that the regime, they feel secure in the new future.
Do you think we need to have a 24/7 surveillance program in order for us to lift all the sanctions?
Oh, definitely. I mean, with the nuclear materials, 100% verification. I think we have to have people there 24/7 to verify and make sure that it is denuclearized.
And that seems kind of impossible. It looked impossible a couple of years ago, but I sometimes wonder whether Kim Jong-un would agree to that.
And so that, right? So that's a big point for me is like, how are we going to get to that point, 100% verification, but at the same time make it in a way that's appeasing to North Korea? Because we've yet to find that kind of balance yet in our history with them. Yeah,
but I do think this is a very positive thing.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, I don't think United States has to be enemies with North Korea for the for the rest of our lives.
Oh, definitely,
I think the situations can change. Look at what happened with the United States and China and Russia. We used to be all complete enemies during the Cold War era, but now, I mean, we're not still buddies, but we got into a better relationship with those countries, and I think that's the goal. I think probably if North Korea improves their human rights, I don't know whether that would happen, but and somehow they accept all the terms of what the Trump administration is asking them, then you can probably see embassies in Pyongyang and embassy here in DC, and things can go better.
Definitely.
There, right?
What interests me about the situation is it's in all of our interest to see a peaceful Korean peninsula, a unified peninsula preferably, but I think China prefers the status quo. So for me, what's interesting about this situation is how North Korea started striking off on their own path and having bilateral talks with South Korea. And who knows, maybe China did send a signal when Kim Jong-un visited visited China. But it seems like they're really striking off on their own. And if anything, South Korea seems to be ahead of the U.S. when it comes to building closer relationships with North Korea.
So let's go back to the Nobel Peace Prize.
Sure, definitely.
Do you think he deserves it? If everything goes as planned and Kim Jong-un says, okay, 100% we're going to get rid of everything, and please lift up the sanctions, and they will lift up the sanctions, and somehow peace is happening, and they end the war, probably the ending of, probably the declaration of end of war might happen late May or early June. Then, at that point, does Trump deserve the Nobel Peace Prize?
Again, I would have to go back to what that looks like. 100% verification.
Is it unfathomable?
I don't think it's unfathomable. I mean, I definitely I think anyone who has solved the North Korean crisis deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. But the question is, though, how do we get to that point, and who is part of that factor? I mean, how much of Moon Jae-in factors into this? Again, how much does Trump factor this? And I think you're bringing up a fair point. But I think it's the end product of what that piece looks like is more important.
But Obama got one, and I don't think he did that much. You remember?
Well, I mean, we're talking about Trump here,
right? So I think Trump is actually doing something. I mean, we have to see how this whole thing plays.
Oh, totally.
Through. But as a Korean, I mean, your parents are from Korea.
Definitely.
We always care about what happens in Korea, and I really wish that this whole thing ends with North Korea, even for the betterment for the people who live there. They're starving to death over there, and for me, it seems like better relationship with United States will bring economic prosperity to North Korea. So, that's what I want. I mean, I'm not talking about economic prosperity for the government there, but for the people
exactly,
there.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
Sure, let's see.
Okay, we move on to our next topic. The White House Correspondents' Dinner ended up being a disastrous chaos last Saturday. Even the liberal New York Times asked, with its headline, asking, did Michelle Wolf kill the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Now, this is what they said about the event. Executives at CBS News were so dismayed by Saturday's presentation that the network considered ending its participation in future dinners, according to 3 people who spoke anonymously to describe internal discussions. The network has since eased its position after receiving assurances that the Correspondents Association will seriously consider changes to the dinner's format. And President Trump slammed the White House Correspondents Association and its annual dinner. He tweeted the event is dead as we know it. This was a total disaster and an embarrassment to our great country and all that it stands for. Fake news is alive and well and beautifully represented on Saturday night. He said the event was filthy and suggested that the organization put dinner to rest or start over. What is your thought on this, John?
Look, if you're going to invite a comedian to speak, you're going to have to let him or her do their art, and you can't get upset about him or her doing their art.
Okay.
Now, as for the setting of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, whether that was an appropriate setting and having especially the subject of your jokes right next to you, I mean, I let that and any individual to look and decide for themselves. But for me, I feel like a lot of this quarterback, sort of Monday night quarterback talk about, it happens, I feel like, all the time after these dinners. And so, for me, you can't get mad at someone for doing the art. If you want to get mad at someone for inviting him or her. But I don't think it's fair to attack Michelle.
But in Michelle Wolf's case, I checked out previous Correspondents' Dinner. I saw Stephen Colbert and Conan O'Brien. I think even Jay Leno hosted it once. The difference between them and Michelle Wolf was there was so much vulgarities coming out. So much cuss words. They had to beep a lot, and this goes live. It's not just on. It's not on Comedy Central or HBO. It was on C-SPAN, CNN, Fox News. What I think, if you're going to, I think as a comedian, you can be harsh. You can be harsh. That's your job. You can make fun. It's a like you said, it's a roast. But I think there should be a fine line where you have to keep decorum. Like if this was an HBO roast,
sure.
I think that was a perfect thing. But it wasn't. It's not for HBO. It was for the public, the C-SPAN, CNN. Kids could even watch it, and so what I think is Michelle Wolf set a bad precedent. I think it was a horrible mistake for the association to hire her in the first place. They should have checked her out. Did you see some of her jokes?
Yeah, no, I watched it.
I'm talking about her previous jokes.
No, actually, I haven't. No,
it was horrible. She was saying like, what is it? So she was talking about Sports Illustrated Man of the Year. They have those. Athlete of the Year, and LeBron James was #1 that year. I don't know specifically. Probably was 2012 or something.
Yeah.
And she tweeted that, Serena Williams came to a close second.
Sure.
But that can be very sexist and racist at the same time.
Sure.
Which means that what she was implying was Serena Williams is like a guy. I felt there was some kind of race issue also coming out of her mouth. She deleted all those tweets, right? After this controversy came about. So I think they picked the wrong comedian. They should have been more considerate. What she said to what's her name? Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, was a disgrace in my opinion. I think she shouldn't have gone that personal. She should have probably attacked Trump more, but I think she attacked all the people around there on the table. So I take offense to that, and they should have hired somebody a little bit more in line with a comedian who at least can keep some kind of decorum, and some kind of manner, and some kind of class.
So I agree they should have hired someone that is more fitting to the situation. Yes. But a lot
so my blame goes more to the association over Michelle Wolf.
But if you look, I mean, you say that, but if you look at a lot of the stuff that's coming out from the right, from a lot of these sort of online magazines and newspapers, all the hate is going towards Michelle. And for me, I think she's becoming a scapegoat for someone who is just doing what she does as an art, as her job, as a profession.
Yeah.
And so that's number one. And number two, if we're going to really criticize someone or ask, why we got to this point, I think that's the better question. Like, why has politics got to the point where we have a comedian who's making these kind of jokes? It's because the right and a lot of the things that are going on, politics is ripe for this kind of comedy. And so I don't think we can really blame a comedian for doing his or her art. But I think the bigger question is, why have we come to this point in our political culture? I think that is the better conversation to have. So I think right now the whole thing around Michelle is just a distraction. And it's missing the bigger point, the bigger conversation.
Yeah, I mean, to her defense, some comedians came out and defended her.
Sure.
Like you said, I do think there's a great point when you mentioned comedians are supposed to do their art to do their job, and probably they shouldn't be too scared about where to go.
And they should not be, exactly.
And that's what she did, probably. But I blame the association, like I told you just minutes ago, because they were supposed to scan all these comedians and see where it's going to go. I think they knew where it's going to go.
Okay.
And they hated Trump to such a degree. I think probably most of the mainstream media journalists, they hate Trump. They can't stand his guts. And I think every morning, I truly believe this, every morning they wake up, I believe the NYT, the New York Times reporters and Washington Post reporters and CNN reporters, every morning they wake up to try to find a way to impeach him. That's how I see. All the reports and all the columns, and that's what they want. They're pretty much anti-Trump and obstructionist of his administration. That's what I see it. And that's why they purposely picked this controversial lady and caused this uproar. And to me, I love comedies. I love stand-up comedies. I love all left or right. I love Chris Rock. I love, Louis C.K. and all these, great stand-up I mean, Louis C.K. now he's disgraced because he's sexual. But, Bill...
Yeah, you can't. The list is difficult. I know, right?
Who's not?
Better not
mention it. But anyway, they're funny, right? Exactly. They are funny, but I think they could have done a better job. And look, Mika Brzezinski, MSNBC's Morning Joe co-host. She is anti-Trump as you can get.
Oh, totally, yeah.
She is anti-Trump as you can get, and this is what she said on her Twitter feed. Where is it? Yeah, she said that watching a wife and mother be humiliated on national television for her looks is deplorable. I have experienced insults about my appearance from the president. But anyway, all women have a duty to unite when these attacks happen, and the White House Correspondents Association owes Sarah an apology. Do you agree with her assessment?
Yeah,
and she even came out with an op-ed, White House Correspondents' Dinner, a big win for Trump. So
see, that I agree. See, this whole notion that we have to, every time there's a situation or controversy, there's a winner and a loser. For me, I disagree with that altogether, so I'm not going to address that.
But what about her statement that they owe, at least the association,
sure, I mean, some of the jokes were definitely, you know, now that you frame it like that, I mean, some of the jokes were definitely off color, especially, it implied attack on Sarah, her physical appearance, her makeup too. So definitely coming from another woman to another woman, from Mika's perspective,
she looked fine that night,
could definitely understand. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it was, I mean, I do understand most comedians and most Hollywood figures and most famous comedians that we know, they lean left, right? Isn't it true? I don't think there's a lot of conservative comedians out there. Probably some, I don't know that much.
Okay.
Do you know any conservative comedians, stand-up comedians? I don't. They're all left, I think.
Well, I don't, when I hear their jokes, I can't necessarily figure out if they're left or right.
Well,
for a lot of them, but you're right. I agree. There's a lot of the comedians tend to be more left-leaning.
Yeah, so I mean, they're already. I think the Republicans are on the defense on that. I mean, this didn't even happen only on the Trump administration era.
Sure.
It even happened during the Obama era. They made fun of the Republicans a lot. You remember when they made fun of Donald Trump? Remember back in 2012
during the election?
Who was the host? Was it Stephen Colbert? No, it was Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers made fun of Donald Trump, and many people think that was what ignited his campaign. Have you?
Oh, really? I haven't heard of that.
He was so angry. He got, because it was pretty much a 15-minute full-on attack Trump monologue.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even a political figure. He did talk about politics, and he talked about Obama. He criticized Obama a lot. That ignited his campaign.
Sure. So
for me, it's like they always put the Republicans on defense, the comedians and the journalists. So I think Donald Trump made the right choice not to attend this event. What do you think about that? I think it was good for him. If he was there, it would have been just.
Again, I push back on your idea that somehow we have to paint things as right or wrong.
Yeah. Do you think he should have gone?
You know, it's up to him at this point. I don't tell him
what
he should have gone.
Right? You know what he did.
Was he at a rally?
He had a rally
right.
in Washington, Michigan. Yeah. And I thought that was a time better spent, in a swing state.
I'm not surprised. I mean, he paints journalism, and most of it is fake news. So I mean, why would he go? So I'm not surprised he didn't go.
Okay. So for you, it wasn't a big deal. I think I do agree with you on we can't blame Michelle Wolf too much because her brand of comedy was already kind of hardcore like that. So
let me tell you why this isn't a big deal. In a week, no one's going to talk about this. In 2 weeks, everyone's going to forget about it. So that's why it's a blip.
Okay, all right. I agree with you on that. We will probably not talk about it for a week from now. Well, that's our show for today. Our show is not about left or right. It's about being right or wrong. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.